Welcome, my name is Magnus Edholm, and when I'm not sitting here, I drive the digital enterprise at Siemens, and I also manage the communication for automation in the US market for Siemens. With me today, I have two very special guests. I have Brenda Discher, and I also have Goetz Erhardt. Brenda is from Siemens and Goetz is from Accenture. And if you are not aware, Siemens and Accenture, we've been working together for more than 30 years, 30 years. So we've had hundreds of successful projects running globally. So it's a pleasure having you. Brenda, a warm welcome. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Magnus? It's so good to be here.
Thank you. And it's been a bit long day, but...
It's been a long day, but it's great to be together. Every time I'm together, I relish hearing what our customers do with our technology and our partners.
Yeah, and we have a long story, as you know, a long history with Accenture. And earlier this year, we also announced a partnership, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely, Magnus. And Brenda was there also to celebrate and announce the Accenture Siemens Business Group, which is actually the first of its kind, where we jointly help our customers to be more successful across engineering, manufacturing, and asset service, and reach new levels of productivity and success.
Yes, it was pretty incredible. We did a joint press conference at Hanover Fair earlier this year, and not only did we announce some of the work that we're doing together with customers, there was a huge announcement about a 7,000 person expertise kind of investment from Accenture to really double down on making sure that the joint investments in our technology, your services, really enable these customers to do some amazing things, especially if you think about the advances of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think not only your technology from engineering, Team Center, and all the PLM-related software assets over to manufacturing, Ops Center, down to the PLC automation level. The paradigm for the future is everything will be software defined and pervasive with agentic and physical AI. So I think it was the right time to announce it. And the last 12 months has also proven how successful we jointly can be.
Absolutely. It's been an incredible start to a journey, and we have been partners for quite a long time, but I really believe now with the dedicated resources and the joint customers we've really won recently, it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be
great. It's going to be great. So great having you both here. And also, Goetz, we didn't introduce you, but you are the CEO of Industry X at Accenture. I think that's also important to mention. And Industry X, could you perhaps spend a few words on that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's our variant of industry, what used to be called Industry 4.0 and 4.0 or 5.0. So the X stands for basically the version of versions, if you will, and the missing link somewhere using novel technologies, data and AI to basically advance the cases of engineering and manufacturing. And we help our customers from consulting, so manufacturing consulting, debottlenecking, everything around that. We help them to reorganize product development processes, embed AI into those, and we use technology. And fortunately for both of us, the Siemens technologies to the benefit of our customers.
Amazing, fantastic. You know, we're going to dig into some real technical stuff in a few seconds, and we're going to talk a bit about AI. I mean, AI is everywhere. So, Goetz, I'm going to put you on the point here. Can you define agentic AI and physical AI, what those terms actually mean, before we start moving to the other stuff?
Yeah. No, Magnus, AI basically has a lot of varieties, which can range from machine learning, other forms, to the now very often mentioned agentic and physical AI. Very simply put, agentic AI is basically AI which does cognitive tasks, right? So it reasons, it retrieves information, and basically does what we do as humans when we think, right? So that's the cognitive part. And as agents, it acts upon the knowledge and the reasoning. Physical AI is the set of AI which does interact and manipulate the world around us, the world of physical objects.
Correct.
So therefore, it's the cognitive part and the manipulation of physical environments. When people talk about physical AI, they think of robots, which are one part of it, but an AGV or other sort of autonomous devices are also other forms of robots.
That's right.
Are also physical AI in that sense. And both are very closely related. You cannot have physical AI without some level of cognitive AI or agentic AI.
Exactly. And also one of the reasons that we have a partnership, Siemens and Accenture, is that I think we combine and we add value to each other. Siemens has got we got the software for engineering tasks. We got world-leading automation solutions. We have some cool AI stuff coming ongoing. And then Accenture is coming on board with I wouldn't call it the fairy dust, but you have a lot of understanding.
The fairy dust.
To make it sparkle and making everything running. Would you agree with me on that explanation, Brenda?
I love that explanation.
Hey.
I love that explanation. I do think what's interesting is the more I look at some of the customers that we've talked to, and I have a couple of examples, maybe I'll dig into one that's really interesting to me, Navantia. So Navantia is a Spanish government-owned marine and defense company, been around for a long, long time, joint customer of both Accenture and ours, and I have some amazing stats, which I want to get to in a minute, but what's really been interesting about them is that Navantia really developed collectively. They started using some of our technology very early on. They're a user of Teamcenter, which is the backbone of their PLM system. But then we needed to expand their ability to use things along what we call digital threads. So another definition, we've introduced agentic AI and physical AI. I'll talk about a digital thread. A digital thread is really how we digitalize a workflow for a customer from design to maybe manufacturing, from manufacturing into operations, wherever the customer actually optimizes something, removing silos in order to create a free form flow of data to be able to convert themselves into a more digitalized enterprise. It's your charter, it's your job, my friend. But Navantia actually evolved from using just Teamcenter through the help of our friends at Accenture. They actually are one of the companies that embrace the idea of a full-blown digital twin that becomes a digital twin of all their vessels that actually becomes the cornerstone of what they can use for simulation, for downstream, for anything that they need to do further on in their development cycle. And what I think is pretty powerful is a lot of customers start from a digital twin, but they don't necessarily also use the data. And through Agentic AI and some other things with Navantia, you guys have been able to do some amazing things with them. They've gotten 20% improvement in productivity, 20% less cost, better quality, better, faster time to market. They've had results across every dimension. Thank you to the folks at Accenture. But really, it's been the technology that we delivered with some of the capabilities that you've done in bringing in AI.
No, absolutely, Brenda. I think it's a great success story, not only from the value realized for the customer, but also if you look forward. I mean, they're a player in the defense sector, right? They build frigates and other sort of warships.
Yes.
But they also venture out into new areas, right? They build now offshore supply ships.
Yes.
They want to move from surface vessels into non-nuclear submarines.
Exactly.
And if you think about a shipyard, a shipbuilder, right? This is long product life cycles.
Correct.
This is complex manufacturing in a shipyard. This is where you need to track and trace stuff through production. You need to have the workers in the shipyard very well equipped with all the necessary information to assemble, to weld, to do all the things.
Traceability, anything that's needed, yes.
And moreover, right, there are engineering changes throughout the life cycle of more than a year from design into the sort of the release of the vessel into the harbor. So that is really where the Siemens stack and our work on processes have really made the difference for Navantia.
Excellent. I mean, what you're talking about is a lot of data flowing. I mean, now we're talking about a design process, in this case, of a ship that Navantia is doing great. So you have a horizontal flow data, we can say.
Yes.
But you also have, and this has been proven extremely important for the industry, the so-called IT-OT convergence, data flowing top floor, shop floor. From a customer point of view, having this amount of data floating around, you always have the security concerns. How is Accenture working on that?
So, I mean, what we also did in that regard jointly with Siemens is helping our customers to secure their data. But if you think about their engineering data as it relates to the product as well as to the product in use,
yes.
Think about a ship, right? I mean, it's in the open seas, right? It's and therefore in operations, and these are the crown jewels of the firm or the owner operator of such a ship. So it needs to be highly secure, highly resilient, and therefore what we do is help our clients to prevent intrusion, threats, industrial espionage with the help of technologies such as the Siemens Remote Industrial Operations Centers and also our assets. So we basically combine the best of what we have for our customers to have very secure operations and data.
Goetz, before you leave that task, I mean, I've been studying up on the topic we're talking about today. I also came across the company Clorox. Is that something that you could be able to talk about? It's in the connection of security that you, Accenture, have been working on.
Clorox is a U.S. company, right?
But yes.
I'm not sure what the case refers to.
No, it was about the data transfer and security, etc., that you guys have been involved in, and making sure that the stakeholders in the development process always have access to the right data at the right moment in time.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's a given for us. That the data availability at the point of need.
Correct.
Whether it's a recipe or an engineering bill of materials. The engineer working on...
Especially through the different, the life cycle states. Yeah. Because of Teamcenter working together with your technology, from as design to as manufactured to as built, not only there, but you can trace any part of that life cycle and any threat, any cybersecurity thing you guys can manage through that. So that's another part of the value chain. Yeah. It's really well. Yeah.
And also back in the days when I was an engineer working in the field...
Long time ago.
Yeah, I hear the intro to Metallica, sad but true, but it is sad and it is true. I can hear it. Yeah, but then we also were working with a lot of data. And perhaps also if we look at the field of manufacturing planning,
yes,
we have something called virtual commissioning, which isn't a new thing. It's been on there for some time. We did hardware in the loop, etc.
Yes.
And now with AI, because we touched upon AI and you explained it in a very good way, Goetz. How would you say, or perhaps also you, Brenda, can chip in on this, that when we have AI in the field of commissioning, let's say a machine, a line, or a complete plant, wouldn't that type of thing speed up the process immensely, don't you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me give a joint example and then Goetz, you chime in with some additional information. So another customer that we've both been working with, Kion. Kion is actually based in Europe, in Germany. They are pretty much a supply chain company. They are transforming supply chains all over the world for any supply chain, automotive, food and bev, whatever. Again, another company that has really embraced the idea of digital twins and many of our technologies, but they're using AI for exactly what you're thinking about, which is agentic AI. They're actually using AI through the help with you guys. You probably know better than I, but they're actually leveraging the AI, whether that's on the edge or it's on a device or it's somewhere in the supply chain area, to be able to understand the applicability, not only understand cognitive, I'm going to use some of the words Goetz used earlier, right? But then they're also using the physical AI, some of the data coming off of whatever the assets are that are in your supply chain, in order to collect that information, not only affect the productivity of the supply chain, but also use that data, we call it an executable digital twin sometimes, bring that data all the way back into product design or into manufacturing to be able to affect a change earlier on before you get to a supply chain issue. I think there's been a lot of great work there we've done with Kion with you guys.
Absolutely. I think Kion is one of the if not the prime case for not only the whole sort of product lifecycle management, but also it has improved the value proposition Kion can bring to their customers, right? Yep. It's faster cycle times in terms of sort of developing a large warehouse, including all of the material handling from AGVs, AMRs, forklifts, to fulfillment stations. Think about all the movements in a warehouse. You don't want to reprogram the assets, the AMRs.
You can't afford it.
You can't afford it, exactly. So the vision clearly is a lights out warehouse fully sort of almost autonomous in its operations, from material which goes into the warehouse or pallets which go into depalletizing, packaging, outbound fulfillment. That's great. Think about the customers of Kion, which now can have a fully autonomous warehouse.
Correct.
And the value proposition is clearly immense.
When you guys talk like this, it's amazing and wonderful to listen to, but it's like a wave of information coming across. So people out there listening, there's so much information. You got to do this and that and here and the storage and warehouse and production. How do you start a project? What is the kind of the low-hanging fruit? Where would you dig in if you're going industrial AI?
I mean, if you think about Kion, right? So they get a request from one of their customers. The customer says, well, we intend to build, or we have an old warehouse which is too small, right? Let's extend it, let's build a new one. What would you recommend?
Yes.
So, and here are a couple of requirements: so much square foot, that type of equipment, height. So, I mean, the basic sort of stuff which engineers love and customers basically say, because this is what they want the engineer to think about. But now this all with the use of AI gets much faster, better,
Absolutely.
cheaper.
Absolutely.
Right? Because the AI can retrieve good warehouse designs, previous designs.
Yeah.
It basically can test and predict the feasibility of certain designs. It can test and predict and optimize potential flows. That's all about what we talked about earlier. The virtual commissioning is the customer asks, can you build that warehouse? And probably 24 hours later, here's the basic design and the costing of it and the operational data and metrics of such a warehouse. I think that's a great proposition if I would be a Kion customer.
Yeah. Well, and if done right, depending on where they start, this can be valuable to brownfield, can be valuable to greenfield. This works for both cases. And imagine a world, I know this sounds a little like it's too far out there, but it's not. AI is actually embedded into everything we already do. But imagine a world where the warehouse, the supply chain, the factory is adapting to what it knows it needs to do based on the requirements that have changed, based on what happened last night in the factory for the next day's job, based on the requirements of a new product or a new product line. Again, it is not that far into the distant future where that adaptability of the physical world is going to happen based on the data that's in the digital world.
Yeah. I'm kind of going off track a bit here now. So
of course you are.
Yeah, I am. So we have technology. We talked a lot about that. But at the end of the day, the three of us are in people business. In what way would you say that this new technology can also attract people to come work in manufacturing companies? Because it is difficult to find people.
Absolutely.
This is what I understand when I'm out talking. So Brenda, what would you say?
So first off, I think there's a lot of institutional knowledge in hardcore manufacturing and factories that is leaving the workforce, especially here we're in the United States. This is a really big issue here in the U.S. AI, which brings you back to some of the cognitive and the physical knowledge of all the information that this factory's ever done or this company ever has had, or maybe with some of these large language models, eventually they're trained. They will give me insights that happened at other companies' factories that are similar to mine. So I think that then allows anyone to be able to participate in this process. Now, you still need good problem-solving skills. You still need new business acumen. You need to understand, what is my company producing? What's the value of my company? And that's where I think, again, to do these things, you need technology, you need people, you need process. And so I think between great process and understanding how that works through digital threads, great technology, and then with people, it all kind of comes together. So I think AI is an enabler to actually help us accelerate innovation, if done correctly. What do you like to add?
I think that's spot on. And I would also always try to sort of separate it into more or less two camps, right? There is shop floor workers, which are enabled by AI, right?
Yes.
So you can use AI to diagnose problems and solve them quickly without sort of extensive training and experience. That's a good thing, right? And then for the engineering side or the product development side, what we clearly can see and will become more important is that you need very skilled people to train those models. Take
Absolutely.
a practical example. A process which happens every day on the manufacturing side is maintenance.
Yeah.
And you have a maintenance planner, typically very experienced people, done the job for 20 odd years, and they know how to basically best schedule different types of maintenance, which equipment goes there, which person can do the job, right, where it has the right skill profile. But think about it. All is in the knowledge base of the customer.
That's right.
It has been done before, right?
Yeah.
So AI can clearly sort of accelerate the process of maintenance scheduling. What you still need is people who work on anomalies which no one has detected yet.
Correct. Correct.
Or making sure that the AI the AI recommendations or the agentic AI in terms of the new maintenance plan is solid, is valid, is workable. But so you need more experience in working with metadata rather than the task itself.
Yeah.
And when I hear you talk now, Goetz, what I see in front of me is industrial metaverse. We talked about the digital twin, we spoke about AI, and we also touched upon software.
Metaverse. Wow.
There you go.
Wow.
Software-defined automation and all that stuff.
Yes.
So looking into the future, now we're moving fast, right? I mean, is it possible to look at the future? But if you have that environment, a single pane of glass where you have all the information, what would that bring to the industry? I personally think it's extremely exciting. What's happened over the last 26 years I've been in the business is just amazing. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, we have a few minutes to go. I will cut you off if we talk too much, but Brenda, do you want to?
So I'll start, Goetz chime in, and we'll go from there. So first off, I think the industrial metaverse was a little bit of a far-fetched concept just a few years ago. And now with a lot of the technology that's out there, whether it's the compute capability, whether it's software-defined automation, whether it is agentic AI, physical AI, all the digital tools and the software tools, hardware, it is truly now in reach. Truly now in reach. Now, I do think the industrial metaverse takes a village. So I do think it takes a lot of partners to work well together. This is not even just like right now we're talking about Siemens and Accenture. I mean, this requires AWS, this requires NVIDIA, this requires, if I think about metaverse, we have a lot of partners that we really need to bring to the table because otherwise you have to decide what is the customer, again, of that entire ecosystem or digital thread of the process, the customer's trying to visualize or immerse themselves in a digital world. What is it that they're trying to do? And let's give them the technology to do it, but let's also work better as an ecosystem ourselves to really do this. It takes a village. That's the way I would.
I would certainly agree. And my take on it is simply that the forces which allow the future, which is AI-powered, are cloud, which is the big enabler.
Yes.
It's large and small language models, so all the varieties of AI with data which allow for autonomous systems to operate like we operate as humans, right? So that's all in reach, and we see the first instances of dark warehouses or lights-out warehouses. We see the first instances of level 4 autonomous vehicles. We see instances of fully software-defined automation from a change in the recipe to the manufacturing line in seconds, which took months to basically validate a change in the recipe. So this is happening now. So the future is very, very near. Very close.
And very bright, I would say.
Yes.
Very bright.
Yeah.
Very
like
bright.
Here in the studio, isn't it?
It's very bright.
Yeah. So you can't hide from this light. So we have 30 seconds. So what it comes down to in this business to be successful is obviously to, first of all, choose the right partners because you can't do it. Well, you can probably do it on your own, but life is much more fun and more effective if you do it jointly with decent and good partners.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of them out there to choose from. And also, when we have an industry environment, there's loads of data floating around. You want to make sure you have your data under control. You know what you want. You want to know where the data sits. You want to collect the data. You want to analyze the data and use the data to...
And a single source of the truth.
A single source of truth. That's what it comes down to. You know what? That's going to be my closing word. It's a single source of truth, Brenda. So thank you for that. And also thank you, Goetz. It's a true pleasure having you both here. We could probably talk a lot longer.
All night.
And we were talking fast.
No.
We were.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Magnus.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Goetz.
Brenda.
Thank you.